Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to see another video, and this is a paid request for Devon. Thank you so much for that. For those interested, requesting any type of videos, movie review, re-review, thought streams, commentaries, video game playthrough, for an hour full playthrough, reactions, random thoughts, streams, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it. I'll get to it as soon as I possibly can. PayPal's the best way to do it. Do have a CashApp as well. Links are down below in the info box. I'll again get to as soon as I possibly can, so thank you. And this is for The War, a 1994 film that I had heard of, never bothered to see it because it just never seemed interesting to me. Also, I'm not a fan of this director, Jon Avnet, because he did Fried Green Tomatoes, which, do I look like the guy that gives a rat's ass about that movie? No. He did 80 Minutes and Righteous Kill, two of the worst Al Pacino films I've seen. 80 Minutes should have been a good one. Guy gets a phone call, you're going to die in this amount of time, and it's a race against time to figure out who is doing this. Al Pacino in the middle of this supposedly thrilling story where race against time, you have an actor that can really exuberate emotions and anger and frustration, and they just drop the fucking ball in every way you can. Righteous Kill. Al Pacino and Robert De Niro are back together. The last time they were together was Heat, which is a classic. Nope, drop the ball in every way. That's who this guy is. Now, I would say this is better than those two. It has some good performances, but at the end of the day, I did not like this film. I thought this film was, the tone was inconsistent. I thought at times it was overly sentimental and preachy. I think Kevin Costner and Elijah Wood, their back and forth, when it's centered on just those two and their relationship with each other, that's when the movie is able to perk up and be something. There's this one bit where the father of these bullies that have been picking on... Well, actually, no, it's someone else. Well, no, it's the same. The father of these bullies, which I recognize, the father of the Lipnicki boys. The way the scene plays out, he does something to their car. Elijah Wood cusses him out, as he deserves. The guy's like, no, boys don't cuss me out. And Kevin Costner, who plays a Vietnam vet who's got a bit of PTSD, he was in a mental hospital for a bit. He just takes the guy down and goes, listen, I get it. You guys have this frustration. I understand about harsh words. But if you try to hurt my boy, I will end you. Okay? I'll kill you. That was a good scene. The scene when... And the father of the Lipnickis, I was saying, I recognize him. He's a guy named Raynor Shine. Not Raynor Shine. If you remember Ace Ventura Pet Detective, the guy with all the beard and stuff who was at the computer, I think his name is Woodstock, when Ace Ventura's at the club and bouncing around and sees this guy and gives him the info on Snowflake the dolphin. A character that I thought was going to be in more of the film. I thought it was actually going to be bigger in the film. But he's in pretty much that one scene. That's him. He was also in Gone Fishing with Danny Glover and Joe Pesci. He was the owner of the trailer park. That's in the kind of somewhere in the third act. Anyway, like that was a good scene. The scene when Kevin has to explain to Elijah Wood that he was at a mental hospital for a bit, but he's out of the hospital now. And Elijah Wood, I mean, he does a good job. This is around the time he was in films like The Good Son, which I thought he was solid in that. And very good actor. I always liked Elijah Wood. I may not be a Lord of the Rings guy. I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan. But yeah, I do like him as an actor. I've liked him in the Maniac remake, The Faculty. There's been a few others. But he does a good job here. It takes place in the 70s I forget where they said. It was like somewhere in the South. And like I said, you got Elijah Wood, you got Devon Costner. The wife is Mare Winningham, which I remember from this film Miracle Mile with Anthony Edwards. And there's also a daughter. So the four of them are trying to make it through, make it by. Devon Costner can't hold down a job because either of his PTSD or now that he's out, they find out he was in the hospital and he gets fired pretty quickly until he finally gets a job at this mine. Meanwhile, Elijah Wood and the older sister, they're dealing with these bullies called the Lipnickies. The sister, Lydia, is the character's name. She has these two friends who happen to be black. And there's a nice little scene later on where she stands up for them and says, they have names. Does all my friends have names? But at the same time, like I said, it's a nice scene, but there are elements of this where it feels very preachy. And not much in subtlety. And sometimes the preachiness got a bit much. And it felt like he was trying to do too many things. It's dealing with Costner and PTSD. You have this war flashback, which honestly, the war flashback, it looked a bit cheap to me. I don't know what it is. Because I've seen movies that deal with wars as well as flashbacks of wars. Something about this felt or looked a bit cheap to me. But it shows about him having to leave this guy behind and he didn't want to. And about how he's trying to be more tolerant. So, for example, these bullies picked on Elijah Wood, but then he gave them cotton candy. And said, why'd you do that? Well, it looks like they haven't been given something in a long time. So he's definitely a guy that, for the most part, is trying to be the opposite of violence, where some people looked down upon towards him. You have the kids trying to get this treehouse made. You have the bullies and kind of this back and forth that happens between Elijah Wood, his sister, the girl, some of his friends, as well as these bullies. I think one of the bullies is actually Lucas Black, who was in the very beginning of the first X-Files movie. He was in some of the later Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift and some of the films afterward. Was he in like 9 and 10 or something? But yeah, that stuff going on. You have like a teeny bit of racism stuff going on, but then not a whole lot of it. It's okay, so is this about a guy trying to deal with his Vietnam troubles? Is this about a kid trying to deal with adolescence and bullies? Is this about systemic racism? Is this about the working class and how the mom is trying to get on by? Like, it's trying to be all these things. I think things get a little bit muddled. And again, sometimes it just felt a bit overly sentimental. And what I mean the inconsistent tone is that, okay, it's going to be very preachy, but try and be this thing about racism in this classroom bit. But then the finale, spoilers. The dad saves this guy because he's not going to leave another guy behind. But then, God, even Guy was pissed off about that. But then there's a cave-in, he gets into a coma, and he won't get out of the coma. Meanwhile, the kids and Lipnickies get into this battle with this fort, and then it becomes like Lord of the Flies, because the war, like they're throwing Molotov cocktails or whatever, and bombs, there's explosions, and everyone's getting bloody or muddy, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And then there's this water tower, and the little brother of the Lipnickies, who's not too bad of a kid, he climbs up, but then he falls through, and then Elijah Wood saves him, and is given CPR, until finally, in slow motion, this little bit of water pukes up, which I did laugh. I was like, I tell you, just something about that made me laugh. I don't know why. I don't think that needed slow motion. And then I was supposed to go to heaven, but I talked to an angel. He told me to stay here to take care of my daddy. And that it looked kind of like you, but older. So I guess the idea, because again, spoilers, the dad, Kevin Costner's died at this point from the coma. And then I guess he was an angel that helped save this kid as well. And then everything's fine between them and the bullies. And then apparently Kevin Costner, even though he had all these issues and trouble with getting a job, he, I guess, I don't know, had some deal. I don't know, it was because of his death or something. Was a type of life insurance. I forget what it was. But now he set something up where they're able to buy a house, and now they have a house. And at times, just there's certain scenes that seem so heavy-handed, so melodramatic. Sometimes the kids, like the one black girl, there's a bit where the sister says something unintentionally racist, and then she goes on this tirade, but I couldn't tell what the fuck she was saying. I'm sitting there going, I'm gonna need subtitles. Even later on when she's in the classroom, I understood life for sure's a bowl of cherries. I don't know what the fuck that means, but okay. I like Life is Like a Box of Chocolates better. In Forrest Gump, which is the same year as this. Also, when the little brother, he was given dimes to let the girls take stuff from their junkyard, and that's how they're able to win this bet to control the fort. Which Elijah Wood and his buddies don't know this is how they won it until much later. So the other brothers find out what the little brother did, and the little brother's like, I don't care how much hair you shave off my head, but I ain't Don Dilly Don Dilly Don Dilly Dilly Don Don Dilly Dilly Don gonna tell you. What the fuck is this? What is this? Like, why is he talking like that? Don Dilly Don Don Dilly Don Don Dilly. Is he like stuck on a loop? Is there a glitch in the Matrix? And I should have known better because this fucking director, which I do not like this director, I think he fucking sucks at making movies. I do. 80 Minutes, Righteous Kill. I would actually like to look up if he's made a film I thought was worth an iota of shit. There might be one. We'll see. There might be one. There might be one like, oh, he directed that? Wow, that's surprising. But I won't check real quick. And yeah, if you like the film, that's fine. Like I said, I think Kevin Costner, I like him as an actor, from The Untouchables to Field of Dreams, even films like Dragonfly, which not a lot of people like. I like it. He does fine here, but again, the mind accident happens, and he's either in a coma or dies, and there's like 45, 47 minutes left of the film, it seemed. If it wasn't that long, it felt that way. He did Fried Green Tomatoes, The War, Up Close and Personal, a Robert Redford, Michelle Pfeiffer joint, Red Corner, a Richard Gere film no one fucking remembers, 80 Minutes, Righteous Kill, something called Three Christ with Richard Gere and Peter Dinklage, The Last Rodeo with Neil McDonough. I'll make sure to avoid those. I guess he's worked on some TV as well. So, yeah. There's not one movie here I thought was worth a shit that he did. Directing wise. Producing, but producing, I mean, there's other producers, and sometimes they could just be the money guy, or I'll just say yes or no and be behind you, whatever. So who knows about producing, but yeah, there you go. But yeah, I don't know what to say. The girl who plays Lydia, I thought she did fine, although her accent sometimes felt a bit heavy-handed. Elijah Wood, especially, I thought did a good job. I think Elijah Wood tried, man. He is trying to get this movie on his shoulders. I think if people do like it, it's going to be because of him and his performance. The scene where he finds out what happened to his dad and he's yelling at God, like, you know, he's not ready, why'd you take him, all that stuff. In another person's hands, that could have been very silly and melodramatic, but I think Elijah Wood did what he could with that. But it's just weird, like, it's going to be this one thing, and then it's going to be like this big Lord of the Flies type of war, where again they're throwing fucking bombs at each other or something. It's like, what the fuck? What movie is this? But again, I think if it was more simplified, this is just my opinion. But it has a high rating, so obviously people do like this. That's cool. But if it had about the father and son, concentrate on them. That's the highlight. I don't even think you needed the sister character. I don't think you need the two. I don't think you need to bring up racism stuff in this movie either. Not every movie has to be incorporate that. I think it was just more stuffing for the Thanksgiving dinner that wasn't really needed. I mean, it was really only brought up two scenes, but still, it would have helped with the pacing because this film's about 2 hours long. I said, I don't even think you need the sister character. Because really, most of her scenes incorporate either her hanging out with those two girls or whatever. Like I said, I thought the flashback to the war, something about it just looked cheap production value wise. And yeah, I think Costner and Elijah Wood do what they can, but maybe the hands of someone else other than Jon Avnet. The idea he would prove his ineptitude much later on with 88 Minutes and Righteous Kill. What a double whammy that is. So, yeah, I wasn't a fan of this. I do apologize to Devon. I do appreciate the request, though. It can't all be winners, at least in my opinion. But thanks for watching. Take care. Thanks once again to Devon for the request. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.